Most people enter a new year making promises, resolutions, and endless plans. And by March, nothing has changed. Words without action are like arrows shot into the air, pointless and wasted. True transformation doesn't come from talking about your life. It comes from doing quietly, consistently, with focus. Think of your efforts like seeds. Plant them, nurture them, and watch them grow. 2026 isn't going to reward excuses, wishes, or intentions. It will reward results. So ask yourself, are you ready to let your actions speak louder than your words this year? The first key point is that words are cheap and actions are rare. We live in a world addicted to talking, to explaining ourselves, to convincing others that we are more than we appear. Every day we see people wearing the armor of conversation, protecting themselves with stories of intention, plans, and promises. But those stories, no matter how eloquent, cannot move mountains. They cannot build a life. Words are like sparks. They catch attention for a moment, but they don't carry heat long enough to start a fire. Action is the fuel, the slow burning wood that carries you through the nights when no one is watching, when no applause is given, when the world seems indifferent. And yet, so many of us are content with sparks, dazzled by the flicker, believing that if we talk loudly enough, the world will think we are already accomplishing something. Every time you catch yourself justifying, explaining, or defending your choices, ask who really benefits from it. Often, it is your own mind seeking comfort, a tempo, rare illusion of control. You tell your friends, your family, even yourself about your plans, as if repeating them aloud somehow makes them true. But intention does not equal impact. Saying you will change your life, saying you will write the book, start the business, or run that mile, does not carry you forward. The quiet ones, the people who actually move forward, they do not announce their plans. They execute them in the shadows, in the small unseen moments. They build silently, and over time, those small bricks of action become walls, houses, cities, entire worlds that words alone could never create. Notice how often we measure ourselves by how much we talk about our goals rather than by what we actually accomplish. Social media has trained us to perform our intentions, to gather likes, as proof that we are doing something meaningful. But outside the screen, the world does not reward hashtags or clever captions. It rewards the results, the tangible evidence that you showed up when no one was watching, that you persisted when it was easier to quit, that you turned your vision into reality. Words are like rehearsals for a play, but action is the performance that matters. You can CTIS endlessly. But if you never step onto the stage, the story remains only in your imagination. There is a certain quiet power in realizing that what you do speaks far louder than what you say. Every time you take action, even a small, unnoticed step, you are rewriting the story of your life. The act itself transforms you, reshapes your mind, and rewires your habits. Saying you will become strong. Anger does nothing. Lifting the first weight, taking the first step, enduring the first failure. These are the acts that build strength. Every word you speak about yourself is like a shadow of what could be, but every action is sunlight touching the ground, leaving an imprint that cannot be erased. And this is the difference between the person who dreams and the person who achieves. One talks about, the other quietly does it. And yet, the journey from words to action is not always easy. It requires confronting fear, boredom, discomfort, and doubt. Action demands presence, a willingness to step into the unknown and keep moving even when progress seems invisible. But here's the secret. Each step forward, no matter how small, carries a gravity that pulls the next step toward you. The world will notice the work, even if it ignores the chatter. Life rewards those who build in silence, If you can learn to stop over explaining, to stop justifying, and to start executing, you begin to live in a new dimension where your days are measured not by what you promise, but by what you create. And once you taste the power of rare action, you will realize that every word you wasted before was simple preparation for this moment. The second key point is that focus beats multitasking every time. We have been sold the idea that doing more at once is a sign of productivity, that the busier we appear, the closer we are to success. But in reality, spreading yourself across too many directions is like pouring water into multiple cracked cups. You end up empty-handed, exhausted, and frustrated. True. Progress comes from directing your energy toward one clear target, letting every thought, every action, every ounce of effort converge in a single line. Focus is not just concentration, it is the quiet discipline of saying no to what distracts, the courage to protect your attention from the endless noise of the world. When you focus, the ordinary transforms into extraordinary. One person writing quietly for an hour each day produces books, essays, or ideas that touch thousands, while another scrolls, replies, and multitasks endlessly, leaving only fatigue and scattered fragments behind. The mind is not a machine designed to split itself infinitely. It is a lens capable of magnifying what it chooses to capture. Every time you scatter your focus, you diminish the intensity of your impact. When you align yourself with a single purpose, even the smallest action carries weight, bending circumstances toward you in ways that casual effort could never achieve. Focus is gravity, it pulls possibilities toward your direction. It is easy to underestimate the power of deliberate attention. We confuse busyness with accomplishment. Meeting after meeting, task after task, thinking we are building momentum. Yet real momentum is born in the quiet persistence of consistent focus. 1 hour spent intentionally with clarity and purpose can outweigh 10 hours of distracted effort. Focus is the difference between planting seeds randomly in a field and tending a single plant with care until it grows strong roots. The world may tempt you to chase everything at once, but mastery, innovation, and fulfillment only emerge when you concentrate your life on the few things that truly matter. Focus also protects your mind from the endless storm of external demands. Every notification, every opinion, every obligation pulls you away from your path, subtly eroding your potential. Multitasking is not efficiency, it is surrender. It convinces you that you are active when you are only reactive. But Otheus teaches you ownership of your time and energy. It creates a sanctuary where your attention becomes your ally, where each choice is intentional, and where your efforts compound instead of dissipating. In this space, even complex challenges become manageable, and the path forward emerges clearly, unclouded by scattered attempts. And perhaps most importantly, focus is a mirror of respect for you, for yourself, for your goals, and for the life you are building. When you focus, you tell the world and yourself that what you are creating matters more than distractions, more than instant gratification, more than the fleeting pull of other people's agendas. Every day you cultivate focus, you strengthen your capacity to see beyond the noise, to resist the urge to fragment your energy, and to act with purpose. A pose that is deeper than desire, sharper than habit, and stronger than fear. Focus transforms ordinary effort into transformative results, turning the seemingly impossible into the inevitable path of growth. The third key point is that silence amplifies your strength. In a world that celebrates the loudest voices, the quiet ones often go unnoticed, but it is the quiet who carry the deepest power. Every word you speak releases energy into the world, and when you speak without purpose, that energy dissipates into noise. Silence is not emptiness, it is a reservoir. It is the pause between waves where the current grows strongest, the hidden chamber where your thoughts align and your intentions sharpen. When you learn to hold your words, you give your actions room to breathe. And in that space, your true strength begins to emerge. Silence is a form of clarity that no conversation can provide. It is in quiet moments, alone with your own thoughts, that you begin to see patterns, recognize distractions, and notice where you are giving your energy away. The world constantly demands your voice, opinions, explanations, reactions, but the most powerful people resist this pull. They understand that every unnecessary comment is a thread that weakens their presence. By choosing silence, you protect your mind, your focus, and your energy. You become selective with your words, not for arrogance, but for precision. Every word you eventually speak lands with impact, weighted by intention and impossible to ignore. When you act in silence, your work takes center stage without announcement. People are drawn to results, not promises. The quiet achiever moves forward while others are busy explaining why they haven't. Their silence becomes their signature. It is a kind of invisible authority that compels attention without demanding it. You begin to notice that when you speak less, the world listens more, not because you are mysterious, but because your deeds carry undeniable proof. There is a strange gravity in quiet action, a momentum that builds unseen until the results appear, undeniable and transformative. Silence also teaches resilience. The world will test you with criticism, doubt, and expectation, and the temptation to respond is strong. But each time you resist, each time you withhold reaction for the sake of clarity, you strengthen your internal foundation. Silence is armor and compass at once. It shields you from the unnecessary battles, guides you toward the meaningful ones, and reminds you that not every moment requires a response. Strength does not roar, it endures. It observes, adapts, and executes with precision. By embracing silence, you become untouchable in your focus, unshaken by distractions, and unwavering in your direction. Finally, silence allows you to hear yourself. In the quiet, your deepest intentions, your fears, and your desires reveal themselves without distortion. You begin to understand what matters, what drives you, and what is merely noise borrowed from others. Every action you take becomes aligned with your authentic purpose, unclouded by the need for approval or validation. The more you cultivate silence, the more potent your presence becomes. You start to realize that life does not require constant commentary. It requires deliberate movement, thoughtful decisions, and the courage to let your results speak louder than your words ever could. The fourth key point is that fear is the enemy of doing. Fear is subtle. It rarely announces itself with a roar. Instead, it slips in quietly, draping doubt over your shoulders, whispering at you are not ready, not capable, not enough. It convinces you to overthink, to plan endlessly, to wait for perfect conditions that will never arrive. And while you wait, life moves forward without you. Fear is a shadow that grows larger the longer you stare at it, but its power disappears the moment you take a single step toward action. Every time you move despite fear, you shrink the shadow juice. Tea a little more, and that is how courage is built. Fear often disguises itself as logic or caution. It tells you to be careful, to delay, to calculate risk until the risk feels safe. And in that disguise, it feels reasonable, even responsible. But real growth, real transformation, lives on the edge of discomfort. If you wait for the fear to vanish, you will wait forever. The quiet achievers, the Me's who create lives that matter feel fear and act anyway. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Every step taken through fear becomes a foundation for the next. And soon, fear no longer controls you. It becomes the marker that you are pushing beyond your old limits. Fear also reveals where your life is stagnant. The things that scare you most often point directly to your untapped potential. It is never a coincidence that the opportunity that terrifies you is also the one that could change everything. Fear feels heavy because it touches the very boundaries of what you are capable of. When you resist it, when you allow it to hold you back, you live in a version of yourself that is smaller, quieter, and more comfortable, but never fully alive. Action through fear is the only way to grow into the person you were always meant to become, to transform possibility into reality, to turn hesitation into momentum. The act of moving despite fear reshapes your mind in ways that words cannot. Each time you face what scares you, you prove to yourself that you are not defined by your doubts. Your confidence grows not as a fleeting emotion, but as a muscle forged in the small victories of persistence. Fear begins to lose its grip because you have already walked through it again and again. Life stops being something that happens to you and starts becoming something you create. And this is the hidden truth about fear. It is not meant to stop you, it is meant to signal that you are about to step into something meaningful. So, meeting worth fighting for. Something that will change you forever. Finally, fear teaches the value of timing and action together. Waiting for fear to disappear is like waiting for a storm to end without ever leaving your shelter. The storm is never fully gone, but you learn that you can move in spite of it, navigate through it, and emerge on the other side stronger than you were before. Each step forward carves a path where fear once blocked the way, leaving a trail that others may follow. In that movement, you discover that courage is not an abstract ideal. It is a habit, a choice, a rhythm. Fear becomes less of an enemy and more of a companion that points you toward growth, urging you to act when it matters most. The fifth key point is that discipline outperforms motivation. Motivation is fleeting, it arrives in waves, unpredictable and unreliable, like sunlight breaking through clouds on an otherwise stormy day. Some mornings, it floods your mind with energy and clarity, and other mornings it disappears entirely, leaving only fatigue and excuses. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It doesn't depend on how you feel or what the world throws at you. It is the quiet commitment to show up, to act, to push forward, even when the spark of inspiration has vanished. Motivation can ignite a start, but discipline carries you to the finish line. Discipline is built in the small, invisible moments. It is waking up when your body screams for sleep, choosing the task that matters instead of the one that is easy, sitting down to do the work even when no one is watching. These actions feel ordinary at the time, almost insignificant, but they compound. One disciplined day is a seed, 1,000 disciplined days are a forest. People often underestimate the quiet power of these moments because they are not dramatic. There are no fireworks, no applause, no immediate gratification. But each act of discipline strengthens the bridge between who you are and who you are capable of becoming. Discipline also frees you from the tyranny of mood. Life is not designed to align perfectly with your emotions. You will feel tired, distracted, anxious, or unsure, and in those moments, relying on motivation is a trap. Motivation leaves you stranded when the road becomes difficult, when results are slow, or when the world seems indifferent to your effort. Discipline carries you past those times. It teaches your mind that action is not a suggestion, it is a requirement, And in that consistency, progress becomes inevitable. The daily choice to act, regardless of feeling, is what separates fleeting attempts from lasting achievement. Another dimension of discipline is its ability to turn resistance into momentum. Every time you overcome the temptation to quit, to delay, or to take the easier path, you reinforce a pattern that becomes unstoppable over time. Resistance is a test of your commitment, and discipline is your answer. The first steps may feel heavy, your muscles and mind complaining, but each step becomes lighter as habit forms and confidence grows. The mind begins to trust itself because it knows that action will follow intention regardless of circumstance. In this RH rhythm, you are no longer at the mercy of your moods, fears, or distractions. You are at the helm of your own progress. Discipline transforms your relationship with time itself. Every day becomes a deliberate choice, a canvas where each stroke counts. You start to measure your life not by what you feel like doing, but by what needs to be done. Goals that once felt distant or impossible begin to shrink into achievable steps because action is no longer optional. Discipline does not promise that the path will be easy, but it guarantees that your efforts are consistent, your growth unstoppable, and your potential fully realized. In the end, it is not the moments of inspiration that define a life. It is the quiet, steady rhythm of showing up, doing the work, and refusing to surrender to the comfort of inaction. The sixth key point is that results speak louder than words. You can spend hours explaining your vision, defending your choices, or describing the future you hope to build. But none of that leaves a mark in the world. People remember what they can see, touch, and experience, not the promises you make in the air. Results are proof. They are tangible, undeniable, and immune to opinion. Each very action you take has the potential to speak for you in ways words never could, and the quiet accumulation of results has a voice that grows stronger with every step, every effort, every decision that moves you closer to what you intend to create. Results demand responsibility. They force you to examine your habits, your consistency, and your integrity. When you focus on outcomes rather than explanations, you begin to see where you are wasting energy, where distractions are stealing your life, and where fear has quietly held you back. Words can hide in comfort. Results cannot. They reveal the truth about who you are and what you are capable of. The person who consistently produces is not swayed by opinions, criticism, or praise. They are guided by the silent dialogue between effort and outcome, learning, adjusting, and growing with every measurable step. The journey to results is rarely linear. It is filled with invisible labor, small victories, and repeated failures that go unnoticed by the world. Yet each of these moments builds weight, substance, and gravity. The world does not notice the hours spent in preparation, the patience, or the perseverance. But these are the unseen forces that make results possible. Success is never an accident. It is the product of deliberate, repeated action. When you focus on producing, not talking, you begin to live in alignment with the natural rhythm of growth, where effort becomes tangible and your life starts to reflect your true potential. Focusing on results also shifts your perspective on influence and authority. People are drawn to competence, mastery, and consistency because these qualities are visible and real. Words can be persuasive, but they fade over time. Results endure. They leave a trail that others can follow, inspire, or admire. When your life is measured by achievement instead of explanation, you stop competing for attention and start cultivating respect. Your presence becomes meaningful not because of what you say, but because of the impact you create, the value you add, and the proof you leave behind in the world. Finally, results give clarity and momentum. They provide feedback that words never can. Each outcome, whether large or small, teaches you what works, what doesn't, and what you are capable of enduring. They remove the illusions created by overthinking and replace them with reality, which is far more instructive than any advice or opinion. When you orient your life around producing results instead of just expressing intention, you create a natural force that propels you forward. The quiet accumulation of consistent, meaningful outcomes builds a life that cannot be ignored, a presence that speaks volumes, and a legacy that is felt long after words have faded. The seventh key point is T. Small actions compound into big victories. It is easy to overlook the quiet, almost invisible steps you take each day, dismissing them as insignificant, thinking they do not matter. Yet life is rarely shaped by the dramatic gestures, the grand announcements, or the moments we wait for to arrive like fireworks. Instead, it is molded in the hidden hours, in the consistent choices that seem too small to count. Every early morning you rise when the world sleeps, every extra page you read, every deliberate step toward your goal is a seed. And seeds, when nurtured patiently, grow into trees that bend the sky and change the landscape around them. Compounding works silently, almost magically, but it requires patience and faith. You will not see the forest the first day you plant a seed, or the first week, or even the first month. You may doubt that your efforts are adding up, or feel frustrated that the world isn't rewarding your discipline immediately. Yet every choice to act, every commitment honored, every small effort invested builds momentum beneath the surface. Like a stream carving a canyon, what appears slow and gentle is quietly unstoppable over time. The person who understands this works in the quiet hours, trusts the process, and knows that results are often invisible until the day they suddenly appear. Small actions also teach consistency, which is the true currency of growth. One push-up, one conversation, one extra minute of focus may seem trivial, but repeated day after day, they create patterns, habits, and rhythms that define the life you live. The human mind underestimates the power of incremental progress because it craves immediate results. But lasting change is always gradual. Mountains are moved one stone at a time, rivers cut through rock one drop at a time, and your potential unfolds the same way. Each action compounds on the last, forming a chain reaction that cannot be stopped once it gains momentum. This principle also reshapes how you measure success. The focus shifts from overnight transformation to steady, sustainable growth. You begin to see the importance of each choice, the ripple of every effort. A single act of discipline or courage does not just affect one moment, it touches the next, influencing the decisions, energy, and opportunities that follow. Life begins to feel less chaotic and more like a canvas you are painting stroke by stroke. The small victories build confidence, resilience, and clarity, giving you a sense of purpose that becomes self-reinforcing. Finally, compounding turns patience into power. You start to understand that life rewards persistence more than brilliance, patience more than speed, and effort more than flair. The quiet accumulation of small actions transforms your trajectory in ways that dramatic gestures never could. Every choice to keep moving, to keep improving, to keep showing up, even when the results are invisible, is an investment in the future you. In this way, the seemingly ordinary, repeated consistently, becomes extraordinary, unstoppable, and life-changing, leaving a trail of achievement that speaks louder than any single moment ever could. As you step into this year, remember that life does not demand your explanations or your intentions. It responds to your quiet, deliberate choices. The words you hold back, the focus you protect, the courage you summon, the discipline you honor, the actions you take without recognition, all of it accumulates in ways that eventually define who you are and the life you live. Change is not loud. Transformation is often invisible at first, subtle, almost imperceptible. But when you commit to moving with purpose, even the smallest steps gather weight, and over time, they shape the world around you. There is a strength in restraint, in choosing action over noise, in letting your results carry the weight of your intentions. Life will test you, distract you, tempt you with the comfort of delay, yet each moment you resist and persist builds an inner force that cannot be borrowed, argued for, or given. It can only be earned. In this quiet persistence, you discover clarity. You begin to see what matters, where your energy belongs, and how the life you imagine becomes the life you inhabit. The journey is not measured by announcements or applause, but by the subtle, steadfast accumulation of choice, aligned with your purpose. You are capable of more than you realize, often in ways you cannot predict or control. Fear, doubt, and distraction may whisper, but they do not have the final word. What carries you forward is not brilliance in a single moment, but the constancy of attention, effort, and patience repeated over time. Every day, you plant seeds, some invisible, some unnoticed, and they grow quietly into the reality you are creating. This is the kind of power that endures, the kind that leaves a life behind that is unmistakably yours. So move forward with measured intention, with a quiet confidence that does not demand validation but knows its own truth. Let your life speak, one deliberate step at a time, without the need for explanation or justification. Trust the accumulation of your efforts. Trust the process of showing up again and again, even when the world is indifferent. In that trust, you will find a strength that is calm, steady, and unstoppable, not because it is loud, but because it is real. And as you carry this into each day, let it settle deep within you. The life you seek is built in the spaces between words, in the discipline of consistent action, in the courage to keep moving through fear, and in the patience to let small steps grow into something extraordinary. There is a quiet power in this understanding, a steady clarity that does not rush or demand, but simply exists, guiding every choice. In this way, your 2026 will not be about what you say or even what you hope for. It will be about the life you quietly, deliberately, and persistently create.